Welcome to Was It Good, the podcast that reviews movies and TV shows. Today we are talking the first 3 episodes of Star Wars' newest series, Acolyte. I'm Ravi, joined by my brother,
Krishna.
And Arjuna is working or something and can't be here because... Actually, you know what it is? I mean, especially for our audio listeners, they should know that Krishna and I are wearing the exact same shirt. It was not planned, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason Arjuna couldn't join.
Yeah, because he doesn't have one of these awesome Jar Jar Binks retro-looking Roosevelt. They're Roosevelts.
Yeah,
right?
the Roosevelt shirts. Definitely check them out. I think it's rsvlts.com. Good shirts, not sponsored, just good quality clothing.
Yeah, seriously.
I have to ask Krishna because this is fascinating. Like I said, we did not plan us wearing these Jar Jar Binks shirts, and the fact that like Jar Jar Binks as a character is making such a return to the Star Wars fan base, whether you look at Jar Jar Binks as kind of like a jokey joke thing, or a you were actually like super into Jar Jar Binks growing up with the prequel trilogy, or if you're just jumping on the trend because of the memes and the fun of it, and etc. But like Jar Jar Binks has returned and is having this kind of like resurgence, if you will, and people used to hate that. And I bring it up because there seems to be a lot of hate with the Acolyte series. A lot of people are saying things like Star Wars is dead, etc. My question is, did you put this shirt on because of how Jar Jar Binks kind of relates to the Acolyte, or is it just like, oh, it's a fun fucking shirt?
Both, for sure. So I was like, for this pod, I was like, oh, gotta wear something Star Wars themed. And luckily, we got hooked up with some Star Wars clothing. So I have like a batch in my closet of like, oh, whatever I worn, what I haven't worn yet. It's the podcast is a perfect place to roll out the red carpet and strut our Star Wars fashion. After I selected this, and I was like, oh, you know what? I think it's pretty apt. I think with the amount of passionate hatred for Star Wars, and perhaps maybe and before like the modern day stuff with the sequel trilogy, 7, 8, and 9, and the shows, basically before Disney brought Star Wars, what was the hatred geared toward? It was the prequels, right? You could say Jar Jar began the modern day hatred for Star. You can't even say modern day because it's like over 20 years old now, so that's like a generation ago. But still, right when the internet was up and coming and everyone had a voice and everyone could voice an opinion, that was Jar Jar to lead the charge of the rabid Star Wars fans who equally hate Star Wars. I will say this as well. I think as a pretext before we get into this, I too am guilty of perhaps unnecessarily, I don't know if it's unnecessary, but harboring negative feelings around Disney properties, right? I think it's relatively easy to do. Like my recent, I wouldn't say hatred, but hatred of Marvel, for instance. I found before we got into Acolyte, starting to bleed into Star Wars, and we'll get into that. But I too am guilty of feeling the hate sometimes.
I think the best way to kind of like sum up, because my initial question for you was going to be, what's your gut reaction after watching these first 3 episodes? If I remember correctly, typically like we've changed the style of our podcast. We used to be very much, oh, there's a new episode of the streaming show or the thing. We must do an episode on said thing. And we all realized that was burning us out. That was just not sustainable. So we try to do either the first like premiere episode, or once the series or the season of said series is wrapped, and then we do like a big like, was this season of whatever show good? If I remember correctly with Acolyte, it was very much none of us were ready or even felt like we needed to do an initial startup podcast. And I think it was between Arjuna and I, we were like after the 3rd episode, was like, we should probably talk about it. And originally, what's funny is I wanted to talk about it because of what the episode 3 of Acolyte does for like the lore of Star Wars, how it kind of not necessarily changes things, but like it gives more context to the Jedi, their general stupidity, and just more of like this idea of the chosen one and fairy tales essentially. And that's why initially I wanted to do a podcast, but it's very much like shifted towards like the weird social like kickback, feedback, whatever, of people just kind of creating these clickbait titles and videos, calling themselves reviewers and just this nonsense and all that. But I'm curious, like, how would you sum up the show so far in one word as your like initial review?
Yeah, honestly, it's gonna be surprising. I really wasn't feeling Acolyte going into it. I was like, yeah, the trailers look okay, but I was like afraid that the Star Wars shows were going to run into the Marvel problem where they start to sort of be mediocre and they all blend together.
Sure.
If I think of any Marvel show, they all have the same level of quality and they all blend together, and there's nothing that stands out about them, right? That's like the biggest knock on Marvel, I would say. So I was feeling a bit hesitant going into Acolyte. I will say this: I binged the 3 episodes last night, and real quick aside, I do think the show works really well as a binge mode.
Yes.
And so I might wait until the very end to binge all the episodes for the end. But after episode 3, I was surprised that I got really into it, and I thought the quality was really high. I think the story is interesting. It's nothing groundbreaking, and it's hard to do groundbreaking stories, right? Like, there's only so many storylines in the world. They've all been done. Creatives today, what you have to do is pick a storyline and dress it up and try and add the surprises. That's how you create story today. And the show, I think, has done a really good job of presenting, at least in these first 3 episodes, this revenge story that goes in some interesting directions, some surprising directions. And I think the way the show has world built has been really cool. This is the first time we're seeing a live action version of this time period, right? We've gotten books, we've gotten comics,
we've gotten
children's show. Games. Oh yeah, children's show, yeah. And we've gotten games, right? That takes place far away from the Skywalker stories, if you will. So I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed the show, and I'm surprised at the level, the quality. Because let's be honest, we've had some misses. Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's like, which one are we going to get? Are we going to get those, or are we going to get Andor and The Mandalorian, season 1 specifically? And I'm happy to say that the quality of this show is it feels closer to, and also surprising because I don't think you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Dave Filoni was involved in this.
I mean, so Dave Filoni has a new title over at Lucasfilm. I believe it's creative, not creative marketing, but like he oversees all of the creative of stories and so forth. I don't know if that means he's directly involved in like the nitty gritty page by page, but perhaps maybe like the overall structure, I believe. But don't take my word for it.
Don't quote you. That's fair.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. I know like he, like when they were promoting the show, and I think that's the other thing that's like kind of interesting with the show, and like you kind of hit the nail on the head where you're like the trailers and things, like it didn't seem like so hype, build up, excitement, etc. And because it is like a new story, it's going to be difficult to get just, Joe Schmo from the street who, is super into like the original trilogy. How do you make that connection for that fan? But even like Clone Wars fans or prequel fans or sequel fans, like it is difficult to like make that connection, make them interested in that show. And I think the other thing that's kind of interesting with this one too is there was a lot more of a opening for Lucasfilm and Disney to do a PR push, right? Because the show prior to this one was Ahsoka that came out during the writers and actors strike, so there was not a lot of promotion from the actual cast and crew. It was mostly just kind of creator type, right? Put creator in quotes, creator content to like build the hype. While this one they've done like a proper kind of PR push. And, I sometimes wonder if that's like if it's just too much stuff like in your face, where it's a lot of the same clips from the trailer playing over the actors talking about something fun. And I also wonder, like, sometimes does that get kind of tricky where, they did a thing where they have Hayden Christensen talking to the actors and like giving them messages. And again, it makes sense. Like, that is Hayden Christensen. If you're a fan of the prequels, that's your way to pull prequel fans into this new world. But then it's tricky because it's not a direct one-to-one comparison where it's like, this is like the story of Anakin, but different. Like, there's no through line there, and that makes it, I think, difficult to like sell it essentially. So then you're really, really focused on word of mouth to like sell the show to new individuals, fans who aren't necessarily familiar with the High Republic stories based on the books, etc. And then the bigger problem is you have the idiot fans that just want to make clickbait content for the sake of making content because they need views. Like, all of the reviews that I have seen on the show that from individuals that call themselves reviewers are, the show is woke, the show is bad. And then you ask the question of what specifically, give me details. And then it's just the writing is bad, the acting is bad. But then all of them are saying the exact same thing, and there's no actual analysis. There's no comparison to whatever. One of the stupidest things that I saw was the acting in this is bad. Kenobi has better acting.
What? No.
Yeah. Now, we all remember like our thoughts on fucking Kenobi when it came out, and I thought Ewan McGregor did an okayish job. I don't think it was anything groundbreaking, and I really did not like the Kenobi series because I thought it was pointless and a silly story. So I don't know. I don't know what Star Wars fans want, but I think it's a problem because this negativity is going to stop the show from reaching new fans, because people are going to see this and be like, well, if it's the same old woke stuff, and I don't think anyone can define woke anymore. But this
no,
is
it's a total buzzword. Yeah.
I think I missed my initial thing, which was my one word impression was fans. Because again, I feel like they're creating the wrong narrative, if you will, about the story. Because again, the story is interesting. It is something different. A lot of people just get upset because they see, there's a female lead, and then the next statement is the show is woke. But it's
what
like,
does that mean? Yeah, what like
how? I don't like. I need somebody to like. If you truly believe this, write this on a whiteboard and explain it in what you think is logical, because that doesn't equal woke by the definition that is defined on the internet. Actually, what is the definition of woke? Definition of woke.
I assume if I had to poke a guess while you look it up. Ooh, wow. Power walk. R.I.P. If I was going to venture a guess, I think woke is like pushing the liberal agenda of, I think equality and equal opportunity. Like, what the fuck? Like,
so this is from the Merriam website. Wokery or woke, often derogatory, the behavior and attitudes of people who are sensitive to social and political injustice.
Wait. But the people claiming woke are the ones being insensitive and
weird.
It's so funny. Like, the people who are crying woke have become the very thing, at least mechanistically, that they vowed to fight against.
It's so stupid because, like,
babies.
I've seen so many like random like right-wing political Twitter accounts post about Star Wars Acolyte, and it's weird because these same accounts have said like Disney's not for me, they're bad, whatever. So then it's like, well, then stop watching it.
Yeah.
Like, are you so stupid that you don't know how to turn your television off? Like,
right.
Are we back in the age of when people don't understand how a fucking VCR works? It's insane. It truly is like, it is one of those like mental hurdles that just it just doesn't make sense. Like, if you don't like something, don't watch it.
No, you're absolutely right. But you have to realize that those people, you said it right off the top, it's the content creation. That's what's clicking.
Right.
So it's basically these like just people who want to hate on things for various reasons, and we could go specifically into what they are, but I think we know what those are. And it's just this echo chamber, and it's just them, spewing their views. And like you said, simply go watch something else. But they'll say there is nothing. It's Hollywood. There's nothing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true. What's his name? Just came out with something for you. Is it Dennis Quaid?
Kevin Sorbo for some reason, but
yeah, I'm sure. Hey, Kevin, go follow Kevin Sorbo's Twitter account. You'll be entertained for days.
You'll be so happy with the nonsense that you see there.
Turn on Fox News. That's for you.
There you go. But it's so crazy because it's like, I hate this show. It's bad or whatever, and it's not for me. And da 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 da. And it's like, stop watching it. But then the argument is like, oh, you're stupid if you like the show. But then it's like, are you not stupid for making content about something you hate? And you're just stuck in a box. Like, I don't know. I feel like what we should be doing is we should be offering therapy to these people.
They need it.
I will give you non-licensed free therapy.
Oh, you will.
It's a 30-day deal, 30-day guarantee that I will just sit there and ridicule you and call you stupid until you decide to stop making dumb content about
that. And then they'll say though that's what they're doing.
I know, it's just us. It's so frustrating. It's crazy.
It's a weird loop, and unfortunately, I think it's just a symptom of a bigger problem, which is too much social media consumption.
Right.
I don't know how you fix it because we're probably at the point of no return with that.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because like we are and again, we are 1,000% very self-aware of what we're saying, what we're talking about, and
we're doing the same thing.
Arjuna, he's not on the pod. He's going to be editing this. You're going to be posting these clips to social media. Like, we are very aware that we are definitely part of the problem.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix it. I mean, the way to fix it is someone who would say, well, then just all content needs to stop. But then, I don't know, what else would I do? Like I said, the point of no return. I would say this. I think maybe then our podcast or this episode will serve as sort of like another voice for Acolyte. So if there is so much like negativity around it, well, here's an alternative view, and you hope it reaches the right person or the right people. Just to try and at least counter the negativity, right,
as much as we can.
And that actually brings me to my main talking points. Now, the one thing that I think I should preface this with is for those first-time listeners, first-time viewers, I am not a fan of the Jedi. I think they are stupid. And
you hashtag Palpatine was right?
And Palpatine was super right. Go Palpatine. Papa Palps all the way.
Palpy.
Somehow Palpatine returned. But I think this show is doing a really good job of like truly showing the fall of the Jedi. How they are basically so far up their own butts in terms of everything that they do. And I feel like episode 3 really like hones in on this idea that there is this group, this cult, these people running around the galaxy, policing the Force, telling people who can and can't use it, who can and can't do whatever. And then if they don't get their way, they are literally throwing temper tantrums.
So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I will say this, even from the first episode, I was like, man, these Jedi are getting really hard to root for. And that's obviously the point of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the show so far. Honestly, I kept going in my head. I'm like, was Palpatine right? Obviously not, because his vision of the Empire, not great, right? Tyrannical, dictatorial, I don't know, whatever that word is. But the Jedi, it's interesting because this is 100 years before the Skywalker shit, and you're starting to see chinks in the armor. I think that would be like my phrase for the Jedi right now. Chinks in the armor, absolutely policing the Force. It's like, it is a little weird. Now, I will say this though. And your first talking point here was flashbacks. They've done a good job of incomplete flashbacks. We're seeing flashbacks from certain points of view. There are holes in the story. There are moments that we don't see everything. So we don't know if the Jedi have thrown a temper tantrum. We just see them. We see May, which is the sister of our protagonist, light a fire, and then cut to everyone's dead.
Right.
We don't know
no
what
sense.
caused that.
Right. Yes.
And that's great. I think it's only episode 3, right? So we're going to take the full season to hopefully get a complete viewpoint. But yeah, right now the Jedi looking super shady with the incomplete information that we have.
Super shady and super sus. And I mean, another thing that's interesting is like one of the last flashbacks or last scenes that you see is they're on the ship, and you see Torben, who's the younger Jedi who takes somebody's blood at some point, or actually, and also gets taken over at one point by the Coven. You see that his face is like scratched, and a lot of people believe that might be because of the Wookiee. I want to say Kilbaka, right?
Kilnaka.
Kilnaka. So everyone believes Kilnaka and Torben get into some kind of scuffle. So then that's also the I think one of the main theories is that the witches take over Torben, and then that's why we get this bloody encounter and whatnot. But again, based on how and that's the thing too, is like we don't have the full story. We're also seeing, like you said, pieces of what's happening. We don't really know fully who kind of started the battle or the fight or whatever. My gut will say it's because you have these people coming in telling you what to do and then trying to take something from you, taking a child from you. Which again is like, that's what's so weird and confusing with the Jedi, where they come in and they take children away from their families. We have seen it where it's supposed to be on paper like the parents are given the choice, right? And I think that's partially why
the kids too are
the kids are like 1 or 2 years old usually. Yeah. While with not May, but what's her name? The main character. Oh my god.
I know.
No, it is May. Yeah, it is May.
Well, right? No, May's the sister.
She's Osha, right?
Osha.
Osha. Yeah. Osha obviously is like 8 and is trying to make the choice for herself. So it's confusing. Not confusing. It's just weird. And again, I would say like the Jedi started it, and then the Coven are just kind of protecting themselves. So
it is an interesting conundrum, right? So if we had to boil it down to what the discomfort that we feel, because there is an uncomfortable feeling with the Jedi coming in. Mm-hmm. Some details, right? First of all, the planet they're on is outside of New Republic jurisdiction, and that seems to imply supposedly outside of Jedi jurisdiction. Now, right. The Jedi would say that any Force-sensitive child, their view is that the best place for that child is with the Jedi, so that they can avoid falling to the dark side.
Right.
And a couple of lines in episode 3 suggest that it is the choice of both the child and the parent, or the family.
Right.
And if they both acquiesce, if they both agree, then the child is allowed to go with the Jedi. The interesting thing is that Osha and May's mother does seem to be pro-choice. Pro-choice in this sense of
making the
allowing Osha and May to lead the lives that they want. So you would think there should be no issue. But then we have May, who, let's be honest, is a crazy person. I'm going to kill you, she says to her sister. She's a little bit loco, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's I think, and that's sort of the agendas, both sides' agendas that have been presented. So we got to see again with the more of these flashbacks, because then other information that we have. Tormund, who was the actor who plays Tommen from Game of Thrones, I was like, where did I see that little?
I did not realize that.
Yeah. I thought too. I was like, he looks so weird in the present day when he has that fake beard and the fake.
Yeah.
I was like,
older.
Right? Yeah. I was like, hey, it looks weird. I love the idea though that he's been in meditation nonstop for 10 years. I mean, I thought that was a really cool.
How does one? Real quick, so that's like something vow of silence or whatever. How does one poop?
So the idea is, so this is similar to some supposed yogi ways of life.
Yeah.
Like yogis in the East over in India, some of them have allegedly suggested that they don't need to eat, they don't need to sleep, and it's by like it's the perfect mastery over one's bodily controls. You've attained a level of consciousness and control where you can regulate your systems. So think about it. If you don't need to eat, you don't need to poop. And if he's not eating, he's not pooping. How does he maintain his life force? Well, he's in a meditative state where he's doing next to nothing, where he doesn't need to intake energy, therefore he does not put out any energy. Anyway, that's why I enjoyed it, because they're taking, like, I think some things that people in the real world have suggested they can do, which sounds like bullshit to me, but anyway, doesn't matter. So, but when May comes in, puts down the poison, he takes it willingly and is like, everything she suggests to him, like, you feel shame and guilt, and that's why you've been in this meditation. You can end it, or we can put you on trial to the Jedi, which suggests that our 4 Jedi did something outside of the codes. They broke the rules, they broke the law, whatever it is. So there is definitely something fishy going on.
And the episode, our 4 main Jedi. I mean, obviously we start with Trinity or Indara in the beginning. How did you feel about that? Because, I mean, one of the things that I was excited for was the fact that Indara, played by Carrie-Ann Moss, who plays Trinity in The Matrix. When I saw that initially, and then especially the opening sequence, was like, oh my god, we're gonna get some crazy ass choreography and fight scenes. And then, 2 minutes later, oh no, she dead. She
dead. Yeah.
Do you feel that was like a pullover, like a you were misled, if you will?
I had an idea that was going to happen, only because most of the trailer stuff with her was from that one scene. So I had a feeling they got a big name. She's still going to be very important.
Yeah.
But you get a big name, you limit them to, because obviously money, but then also it's like you've got this like really big name. So it is like I don't know if it's like misdirection on purpose. But I actually think it was a really good casting choice, because Carrie-Ann Moss is really good at playing the stoic, stoic character. Like Trinity was like pretty stoic for most of that trilogy, right? The Matrix trilogy.
It's not a trilogy anymore. There's 4 of them.
Oh, fuck! I forgot about that 4th.
And there's a 5th one in development, I believe. So,
oh, good lord!
Keep it coming.
Yeah, keep them coming. I guess. Not a big fan of 2, 3, or 4, but so I didn't feel misdirected, but I can see why people would feel misdirected. But I actually think it was a good choice on their part too, especially because of this mystery around the Jedi. These 4, what they've done. I think killing her in episode 1, you're like, ooh, it's gonna be this. And I love the idea of the revenge tale. This dark acolyte running around trying to murder Jedi who historically are really hard to kill. It's like, what kind of training has she had? And also the philosophy behind it.
Yeah, she's
got to get them to attack them.
Yeah, they're supposed to essentially kill themselves, right? Is what they're going for, or
no? It's the Jedi philosophy is they never attack first,
right?
And so May's Dark Master, which is another mystery box element, has basically said, you get them to attack you because you're getting them to break their code, and you're showing how fallible and nonsensical the Jedi way actually is. They stand for high and mighty ideals, but they are guilty of not even following through on their own stuff. So that's important to this dark Jedi, Dark Master person who's pulling the strings of May,
the puppet master,
the Poison Maker. Which that guy's hilarious. I think he's a really interesting. There's a lot of really quirky characters in this that I quite enjoy.
That's you're talking about Kamir.
I think so.
By Manny Jack into.
Yeah. I believe that's the character.
I think he's one of the top. I think the entire cast, like, there's no character so far that I've come across that I'm like, oh, you are like that's what was confusing when it's like the acting is like bleh. I'm like, I believe these characters though. I believe that like the poison maker likes to go on benders and then continue drink. Like, I don't know. I think they're doing a really good job from what I've seen so far. So that's where when they're like the acting is bad, I'm very confused.
Another one is Yord. I think
Yord is great.
So like, you know,
I hate him. I hate his character.
No, exactly. Exactly. You hate him.
I feel like I'm just like, you're such a pain in the ass Jedi. Shut up.
Yeah, but you at the same time though, you understand that he is representing the so-called like police of the Jedi, like justice, and
he's to the code.
What he's there for.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I think the characters Jedi I think would be hard to do, especially around this time period, because you would think they'd be so noble and stoic, and therefore every character would feel the same. They'd all be like Qui-Gon Jinn clones or Obi-Wan clones. It's hard to inject personality into that. Or you think it would be, but I think Acolyte's done the best job so far of giving these Jedi chinks in the armor, little character flaws that come out at odd moments. Even our main Jedi guy,
Saul,
thank you. Even him, like he's done that actor's done such a good job of showing guilt and shame underneath the stoic Jedi teacher. Those things are coming through, I think, really nicely. So yeah, the bad acting I don't understand. I think it's actually some of the best acting that we've seen.
It's interesting, they're bringing me to my next point, like the mystery. And you kind of said at the top where it's like, first of all, you said like watching it back to back definitely makes more sense. And I think it definitely makes sense because the show is built around the mystery box TV formula of there's this general mystery and then there's all these other mysteries popping up, and you're not going to get anything until the very end. And I think that's where it can get really frustrating for people when you get an episode and you're not pushing the story as far as you want it to push, or it's going a different direction, presenting you a new mystery. So I would say, like, if you were considering the show or on the fence, I would say wait. Definitely wait.
Yeah.
But there are two mysteries or two things I want to ask you.
Ooh.
First, about Saul. Do you think Saul started the whole thing, the fight? And we are seeing all the death of these other Jedi, but like Saul is being presented as kind of like the good guy. But is it possible that Saul? I'm not saying Saul is like the Sith or the bad guy. I'm saying, is he the one that did something that kicked this conflict into motion?
I think it is very what's the word? Believable that he could be, right? We've had the most screen time with him of our 4 Jedi from that encounter, and he does, and like I kind of just said, he has been carrying a lot of guilt and shame around, and even his fight with May, you get the feeling that he knows more than he's letting on. And also the fact that he wanted to keep Osha out of it, I think is very telling as well. Now, I think the Jedi have been presented as they want to do good, but they end up making poor decisions for the right reasons, if that makes sense. Or maybe they're making bad choices for the right reasons, or they're doing bad actions for the right reasons. There's a mix-up in their ideals and their execution. So I think it's not only believable that Saul is responsible. I think that makes the most sense, because I have a feeling May is going after the Jedi. I think she has an order. She went after Indara first, and I think she's building up to who is the most maybe responsible
potentially.
It's interesting because if Kelnok is third, makes you wonder. Yeah. But if she blames the Jedi for taking her sister away from her, then that's the other way to look at it, right? Like Saul was the one pushing for it. Kelnaka was the one that Osho had the most immediate emotional connection with. And then so it comes down. So maybe Indara was the least responsible all the way. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. which way it could go, but it could go in the way that Soul started it, or we're looking at it from May's direction where Soul is he's the most responsible for taking Osho away. So
I would say with the mystery of everything, like one of the theories I had when watching episode 1 and then partly into episode 2, and then my theory was completely destroyed by the end of the episode, was that Osha and May were just one person, and May was a force projection going around and like doing whatever, because it was always one of those things of like, where's Osha in the situation when May's there? We know that force projections can go across star systems, whatever. I thought, oh, that might be a kind of cool thing, like she's this dark internal thing. But then obviously that was proven wrong when we saw both of them at the end of episode 2, and one shooting at the other. And then also, I mean, I guess could it still be possible? I don't know, because like we see the two of them, one in the speeder, one shooting the other one, but you know, that could be a mental thing. I don't know. It's a weird. I mean, the episode 3 obviously shows that there are two of them, but it's possible that, again, it's possible May killed Osha, and Osha is actually like, May's the real physical form, and Osha is the projection. I don't know. Now it gets confusing and weird.
Well, so I assumed that they were twins, and I kind of thought that from episode 1. But your theory, I think, while it probably is wrong, the element or the idea, though, that maybe makes you pause is the way they were conceived. We're getting pre Anakin, but we're getting Anakin before Anakin, right? Skywalker, as in, it seems like, or it's implied that the two were created with the Force inside of another's womb, right? The idea is that their mother created them with the Force inside of the womb of another, and then they were born. Which, immaculate conception. Yeah, you bring in all those ideas, right? It would be interesting if this whole thing turns out to be the psychotic breakdown of a being created through the Force. Let's be honest, right? Perhaps Star Wars so far has shown us that being created through the Force has really bad consequences. Anakin, right?
Truly,
so if Palpatine, if it's suggested that Palpatine or the guy before Palpatine created Anakin through the Force, immaculate Force conception, Anakin, incredibly powerful, falls to the dark side, throws the galaxy into darkness, right? That's strike one against this process for creating a person. Strike two could be this one. One person was created, and mental breakdown where she is having, and this whole thing, we're doing Fight Club. we're doing Fight Club, and
dude, if this is like the Star Wars version of Fight Club, I'm all for it, because that reveal at the end of Fight Club is one of the best fucking reveals, I think, in like cinema. And I don't see why we can't have that here. The other thing that's interesting, and like one of the reviewers on the internet, if you will, said that by introducing the idea that somebody else was created through Force conception or whatever, ruins the whole idea of the one. Blah 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 blah. Which, again, when you think about things, like if there was this dude, Darth Plagueis, just chilling through the galaxy, just like the real world, right? People don't come up with original ideas just out of thin air. He probably got the idea from something else, i.e., this event, perhaps. Did somebody just
or
he's the son of Osha?
No. What if the Dark Master behind May is Darth Plagueis? Think about it. So we know, right? Different species can age. But what if it's Darth Plagueis and this is his like V1 of that experiment?
This is V1. This is
V1. This is V1 of Immaculate Force Conception.
Yeah, why not? And then
Darth Plagueis.
So,
like, it's like a young Plagueis.
That's gonna be my next question.
That idea.
Yeah, my next question is like, who do you think is the freaky guy with the red lightsaber and the Kylo Ren ripoff mask, or the Wish mask, or whatever you want to call it?
I mean, before this, I was like, it's going to be a new character we don't know, or
Mm.
it's going to be, I don't know, Tormund or not Tormund. Tormund, the guy that Tommen from Game of Thrones, his Jedi.
Torben.
Yeah, Torben. Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's the guy.
The only reason I would say that your theory might not work out perfectly is because
the Plagueis one.
Yeah, is Plagueis' species is known as a mun, M-U-N-N.
Yeah,
and shows here that he was born between 147 and 120 years before the Battle of Yavin.
So that's perfect. That puts him right. It would put him at 20 to 40 years old.
But his species, though, they're typically like 7 feet tall.
Well, we got a back shot of that guy.
That's true. I mean, that would be kind of a big the fuck.
Wait, is that,
or
that
at the very least,
up,
this is the guy that trained Plagueis.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, yeah, we could be doing that.
We don't know what they are. So
yeah. All I'll say is I didn't think of Plagueis until you're like psychotic. Are we witnessing the
V1?
It was a roundabout way to get here, but I think it could be Plagueis. That would be fucking awesome.
That would be pretty cool.
Depending on how it's portrayed or whatnot.
I will say the other thing that's kind of interesting with the show. So the creator of the show, Leslie Headland, has said that this show is kind of contained in a one season. So I believe it's 8 episodes that we're getting, and we will know our story or the general gist of the story as presented in this 8 episodes. Or is it 7 episodes? How many freaking episodes are you? Why is IMDb their freaking website sometimes just doesn't make it easy to navigate to whatever the hell you want? It's very frustrating.
Oh man.
It is 8 episodes. It ends July 16th. You know what's funny? I put that in the document. I could just look at there. Whatever.
You did?
I did. I put the date of when it ends.
Oh, okay.
July 16th. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that we'll know who the person in the mask is by the end of the show. I think what it'll tell us is we will know the story of May in terms of what happened and why this character of Osha, why May is going and killing all these Jedi and how Osha ties into it. I think we'll know that story, but I wouldn't be surprised if we never figure out the identity of the dark Sith person running around.
For sure. Yeah, and it probably works better if we get like breadcrumbs and they leave it open-ended. Be way stronger. Like, maybe they don't drop like, oh, it's Darth Plagueis or something like that. But if there's enough breadcrumbs of this dude reveals himself and, gets the idea of Immaculate Force conception from the witches, it's like, oh, well, shit.
I mean, the other thing that's interesting too, like, we've in this pod, we've thrown around the term Dark Force user, Sith, Dark Jedi, weirdo with a red stick. Episode 1, when Qui-Gon and Obi are talking to the Council, and they say, without a doubt, that it was a Sith user that we encountered on Tatooine in reference to Darth Maul. Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu, says, a Sith has not been seen in thousands of years or whatever. And a lot of people are like, well, how can this be a Sith here? I think what will be interesting is it's possible that this is a Sith, and then Saul is going to do another major cover-up with this, because remember, there's not the High Council involved in this. It's a higher council, but not the High Council. So
interesting.
It's like a weird, mid-level tier club, if you will, that's dealing with the situation.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, I wouldn't be surprised, just like how Kamino in episode 2 is wiped from the Jedi archives and the records. I wouldn't be surprised if they hide this whole thing up or cover this whole thing up.
Yeah, interesting. It's so curious to see where this goes, like how this situation resolves itself and what the Jedi do around it. Because like we already said, it's getting real sketchy over there on Coruscant. And if they do cover it up, well, it's like, Yoda is no longer the guy to blame for all this. You just blame the whole Jedi as a whole.
Well, I
They're
mean, and that was the thing too. Is like Leslie, the creator director, said like she was interested in telling the story of like how do you get to the point where some lunatic is able to take the Republic down and the Jedi down. And I think it is because like the Jedi are so full of themselves that they do hide, and they know that there's a small group of them that knows that the Sith is there and has returned, but do not share that information, right? Because they want to seem like we control full aspects of the Force. We know who's got the power, who doesn't have the power, and then this thing is able to grow without them knowing, essentially. So I think that's where it's leading towards. That's my kind of guess.
yeah, for sure.
I don't want to say that's my bold prediction, but before we get to bold prediction, let's get into qualifiers.
Ooh.
Basically, what is going to be the thing that you need to say at the end of the series? Because we are going to do a wrap up podcast. Hopefully, Arjun will be able to join that one once all 8 episodes are done. So definitely, follow along on our socials. Was a good pod on TikTok, Instagram, if you want to be made aware when that drops. But Christian, what's your qualifier to make you say yes at the end of the series when it's all done?
I think they just need to keep this mystery going until the end. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes Disney has a weird problem where they'll have like multiple storylines in shows. Again, I'm kind of bashing on Marvel. So as long as they don't wrap up this mystery by episode 4 and then start a new mystery or backlash to the mystery for the back half of the season, I think that's what I need. I need this mystery to last a full season. They keep building it. I like the pace of it, to be honest. I like the slower pace because it does work better as a binge show that way. And I think this show it works best when you can binge it, and it makes the mystery pop, if you will. So yeah, as long as they don't do anything funky with the pacing and switching gears all of a sudden going in a totally different direction, I think that'll be enough for this to be good.
I think for me, my qualifier is going to have to be. I want it to be like it has to tie into like Darth Plagueis in some weird way, but I feel like that's too much to put in 8 episodes, and it also kind of cuts out the ability to kind of continue a story around this time period. So I think for me, we just need more classic sci-fi elements, which the show is doing really well. I think right off from the get-go, the first episode was very much. It doesn't feel like a Star Wars show. It feels like a science fiction show, and I think that's a positive because a lot of times. To pile onto your Marvel TV thing, you don't want it to just feel like any other generic show, and it does feel unique. So I think it needs to like maintain that. If all of a sudden we start seeing like Stormtrooper-esque type things, we got like massive crazy battles, that type of stuff, and like we start taking away from like this mystery box, kind of like what you said. I think that's where it's like, well, I don't want it to be generic anymore. Like I don't want the big action fight scene at the end. I don't really care for that. I want good sci-fi. So I think as long as we get that, I'll be happy.
Nice, yeah. I think just to piggyback off of that as well, and it still ties into mine. It's like the story here that's presented so far, at least in the beginning, is like the story of revenge, and then the mystery of why this revenge is being carried out. As long as you keep that at the focus, because that is intriguing. And they've done a really good job of building the motivations behind it. Just keep going with that. Don't end it, and like to your point, like the nice sci-fi that you have around it, don't ditch it all of a sudden and become traditional prequels or sequels Star Wars. Palpatine somehow returned.
Somehow.
Yeah.
What's your bold prediction for the show?
I think we got there in this discussion. I think it might not be explicitly confirmed, but Darth Plagueis is the guy. He's going to realize that May and Osha were immaculately conceived. It's why he recruited May or found May to break the Jedi, right? If you think about it, there's only one force in the galaxy psychotic enough and strong-willed enough to fight the Jedi, and it's always the Sith. Other groups might have their quarrels, and they might call the Jedi a nuisance, right? But it's the Sith. The Sith and the Jedi, they're meant to do battle forever. And they need each other in a weird way. It's like it's like an abusive relationship. Anyway, so the Sith, it is the Sith. They are in hiding. They are being secretive. They're the masters of misdirection. It is Darth Plagueis.
Nice. My bold prediction is going to be kind of weird. As of the taping of this podcast, the Rotten Tomatoes score for Acolyte sits at critics 85, and then audience at 25%. When you compare that to other shows from Disney and Star Wars, my non-favorite one, Kenobi, critics is 82, audience is 62. Obviously, that show's wrapped. My bold prediction here is that right now the audience score is being review bombed by people for whatever reason. People that have too much time. I think by the end of the run of the show, so probably a week after the final episode drops July 16th. So I think July 23rd. I think that audience score is going to go way, way, way up. I think it'll probably land at around like a 62, 65 is my bold prediction.
That would be quite the comeback.
Because what's interesting is when you look at Kenobi when it dropped and its critic audience score around the first couple of, it was the same thing, which is again something that just proves that you need to let a show come out before you just start shitting all over it. And again, I have said on this pod, like, I've watched a show and I didn't like the first or second episode, and then I'm done with it. Don't bother like wasting time on it if it's not good.
Right.
There's no, you don't have to sit there
if the show is not for you, if it's too woke for you, you should know by the end of episode 1. Then therefore, shut the fuck up and go away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Opinion doesn't really count at that point, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You gave your opinion. That's it. You don't have to keep going. Yeah.
I think it's that time. Big question.
Ooh.
I guess I'll just go first because it's just the two of us. Krishna, was episode 1 through 3 of The Acolyte good?
Yeah, they were really good, surprisingly so. It's a different formula than we've seen from Star Wars. You can't say it's not. It's different in the live action stuff. I actually think we're getting like feels of like things that they've been able to execute in the animated stuff, and that's easy to do in animated. But they're bringing that sort of formula, the different stories you can tell, into live action, and they're doing it really well. I'm hoping that Star Wars or Disney is starting to find that footing with these shows. Create a story that's really interesting, that fits within the Star Wars, but it's the story first. And I think this is one of the strongest stories that we've seen coming out of live action Star Wars, and that's good. Keep it going.
Definitely. I mean, again, I'm not gonna say definitively, but I still think Andor is like top notch, and then this is definitely a close first, second, if you will. But again, I won't agree to that statement until the show is done this first season, and then decide. Absolutely.
So, Ravi, was the first 3 episodes of Star Wars: The Acolyte good?
I already see that you put my answer for me.
Yes.
In our doc, so it says yes, so therefore yes.
Good. You can read.
I have no opinions of my own. I just read the script.
I was just precog it. I was just using the Force to see what
Force. Nice. Yeah. Give Inception. But no, it is definitely a good show. I'm enjoying it. I'm curious to see what happens. I probably will do something similar and batch a couple episodes before jumping in, because I do, like anybody else, I get frustrated with week to week stuff unless it's more self-contained. Like another one that's huge mystery box is the Apple TV Dark Matter.
Yeah,
like I just binged I think 4 episodes.
So good.
If I had to wait week to week to watch, I'd be super annoyed. So
yeah,
I think mystery box is difficult. It's difficult in that week to week formula. But for those who are waiting till it's all the way done, I think you're gonna enjoy it quite a bit. So
yeah, it's gonna be a ride, I hope. So
nice.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for us here. Was it good? As always, thank you for tuning in, listening, watching. This podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, etc. We do full episodes on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wasitgood. And then we are on social on TikTok and Instagram at wasitgoodpod. New pods every Saturday. Until next time, keep your opinions to yourself.
And we will try and do the same. Not.